Okay, welcome to a new video series that we're starting to do. We're basically just going to sum up how to use all the other things that you've seen in the other videos, and we're going to apply them to a chart. This first series is going to be about horizontal support and resistance, and then we're going to follow with moving averages, Fibonacci, and how to use the volume profiles. So on the first chart here, we got Bitcoin USDT, and we're just doing horizontal support and resistance. As soon as I come to this chart, I'm on a 2-hour chart here. You can zoom out a little bit to see where we are. And I'm just focused on this little range in this area. So I'm going to use the horizontal line tool. It's over here on the left side panel. Just click on it here and then you can start adding your lines. Now what makes this resistance is when the price came down and then back up, it hit this level. And it came down, it came back up, hit this level. Down and back up, hit this level. So we can add a horizontal resistance level here. If the price is below, then it's resistance when the line's overhead. If the price climbs up, then it turns into support. It becomes resistance when you're at the bottom, and it becomes support when it's above it. So we're going to do it again. We're going to label the top of the range, and then we're going to label the bottom of the range. So it's really simple. We'll even add another one right here. So once you got this set, you can basically trade the range if you wanted to. Once you've come down here and you've established your bottom, after you've hit your top, this would be the top of the range, this would be the bottom of the range. And then after you get more price action, you can start adding more of these horizontal lines in. So for a breakout, the one that you get the most reactions to is probably going to be your most important level. Even back here it was support, support, it broke below and it was resistance for a moment, broke back up, came back down, and tested that same level again. So over on this side you can see the same levels being respected. So it came down over here, we tested it again, got rejected, came back down for a moment, and then finally it was able to break through this level again. And you got some volume confirmation over here. Previous resistance becomes future support. Now we've got a nice retest of this level, and then we moved up to the next level, right? So over here you had a line that was being respected again, right? Resistance, resistance, price came up, came back down, tested the support, support couldn't hold, and it broke through. Now here we are again over here on this side. Previous resistance over here, now acting as current resistance on this side. So this is Bitcoin, and that's horizontal support resistance for the current Bitcoin chart. We'll take a look at Ethereum. This is a blank chart again, and same idea. I'm using a 12-hour chart, so this is a higher time frame chart. Go to your horizontal line. I would label this one up here, and then label the bottom down here. And same idea, I would use this top and probably in this area. Alright, you got a lot of action. So again, you got resistance, resistance, broke through, came up to test this level over here, came all the way back down, and now it's using this level as support. Previously it was resistance over here and over here. So then it turns into support. Right? Previous resistance becomes future support. The price came up a little bit, rode down, and it lost this level for a minute. So for a little bit of time, this became resistance again, and it was tough to break above it. And as you can see now, we're starting to get above those levels again. Now we're going to use moving averages. So moving averages, I have one set to a 240, which is a 4-hour. Okay, you can actually you can edit any time frame you want for any moving average you want. So if you want to be on a different time frame and then see the 200 MA on another time frame, you can choose from this list. Alright, so I'll give you all these different time frames to look at. So say for example I wasn't on a 4-hour chart and I went up to the 8-hour. These lines will still be the same. They'll be in the same spot. This is a 4-hour 200 MA, and that's what the yellow line is. So that'll never change regardless of which time frame you flip to. Right, so we'll go even to a daily if you wanted to look. Alright, you can look at the daily and get an idea of where the 4-hour is. Alright, we'll go back to the 4-hour again here. For this example, we're trying to apply a trade plan to this. So I've got the yellow one over here is the 4-hour 200 MA, and then the orange one is the 12-hour. Same thing, right? So I just came over here and I set the time frame for a 12-hour 200 length. So it's a 200 moving average on a 12-hour chart, and that's what this orange line is. Alright, this is what this represents. So a trade plan you could do is once you've broken above the 4-hour 200 MA, you could use a higher time frame moving average for profit taking, right? So even if that was just your simple plan and that's all you did, you come over here, we'll measure the move. Here we broke above the 4-hour 200 MA, and then we got rejected at the 12-hour 200 MA, right? Simple little strategy. So over here, you can see the 4-hour 200 MA was resistance, right? Barely made it above, couldn't really hold. came back down, got rejected again, and now finally it was able to break above it. Once you start trending above these moving averages, that's usually an indication that the trend is starting to change direction. Alright, a lot of people use these tools. The more people that use them, the better they work. We'll go over to the Ethereum chart. Same idea here, right? Back in this section, you got the 200 MA on the 4 hour, and then the 200 MA on the 12 hour. Even if you didn't catch the entire move, you still got a piece of this range, right? So if your entry idea was to enter the break of the 4 hour here, you could take profit at the 12 hour 200 MA up here. It's 15% profit. Of course, right? You didn't catch the whole thing, but we're trading in the middle. Most of the money is made in the middle. So same idea. Once you came down to this level, the 4 hour 200 MA became resistance, and then this time we broke above it, and it came down to retest it as support, right? So previous resistance was the 200 MA on 4 hour, and then the 4 hour 200 MA became support. And now we're breaking above even higher time frame moving averages. Next one we're going to go to is how to use fibs. Alright, so Fibonacci tool can be another way to measure support and resistance. So if I come to the top here, this would be the top of the range, and I pull it down to the bottom. Now you have fibs that you can use as well. What we're looking for is confluence. Confluence means that you have a multiple amount of ideas that are all coming together to show the same result, right? Confluence just means that many things agree together. So back here we had a support level that you could draw, and then again you had a moving average that you could use, and now over here we have the 0.272 fib level that's working just the same basically as the other ideas. So this would be confluence. You have 3 indicators or 3 different tools that are all telling you the same thing. So for a Fibonacci tool, you always want to pull from the top of your range down to the bottom of the range. I'm usually pretty specific about using the wicks. Sometimes if you're using smaller cap coins, you're going to get wicks that are extremely long and they don't really make sense. It's really your best judgment to which one you want to use. So for this case, for Bitcoin, it's fairly stable. I would just use the extreme top and the extreme bottom. So the 272 was resistance for a while, and then we broke above, and then essentially this is a retest of this area. It could come down lower, we don't really know yet. A little too soon to tell. Alright, we'll go over to the Ethereum chart. Same idea here. If we pull a fib from the top, I like to use the magnet tool, makes it a lot easier. Go from the top of the range to the bottom of the range. And same idea over here, the 272 is being respected. Essentially on this first bounce to the bottom, the 118 isn't a super common fib number to use, but I like to have the whole range, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to the top. Same idea, right? You broke above, the 272 was resistance, the 118 became support, it came back up, broke above the 272, and this time the 382 was being resistance. The 272 was support, and it ranged in between these fibs. So this is another idea that you can use, right? If you wanted to come in and measure the move, say you're at the bottom of the range, you have a double bottom here. So this is your first bottom, second bottom. You could have entered into this area. Not knowing exactly where the top's going to be, you could have at least traded the 272 or up to the 382. Same thing over here. It broke above the 382 for a bit, came back down, lost the 272, and essentially this is another retest of the 118. Came up to the 272 as resistance again, finally broke above, bullish retest, and then it continued higher. Now we're breaking above the 0.382. All of these ideas are coming together and they're all pointing to the same idea. So this is a lot of confluence. Last one we're going to look at is the volume profiles. So this over here is the visible range volume profile. So depending on how far back you zoom out your charts, this is going to move and it's going to change. It'll adjust to what it can see on your chart. It literally means what it sounds like, right? It's the visible range volume profile. So whatever is visible on your chart is what this is going to adjust itself to. The more you move out, the more data you give it, the more it's going to adjust itself to what it can see on your page. We'll go to the next one. This will be Ethereum. Now this one's a different tool. This is the fixed range volume profile. So if you come into the left side panel over here where your long positions and your date range tools are, it'll be at the bottom. Fixed range volume profile. So this one, as it sounds, it's fixed to the chart. So wherever you put it, that's where it's going to stay. It won't adjust if you move your chart around. So you can select ranges. Say if you wanted to go from the top of this range and just select the entire range on the chart. This is not going to move regardless of how much data you give your chart. You can zoom out, you can go back here. It's a fixed range. To use this as support and resistance, it's the same idea as the other tools, except this is based off of volume. What this blue line means is that this was the most amount of volume traded at a certain level. So this level becomes very important. You can see it's respected here. It was resistance, resistance, came up and down, and this is where it tapped it as support. It became strong support. Came up again, broke below for a moment, but it's still trying to hold this level, right? So we're going to follow this level as another idea on top of the horizontal support resistance, using the moving averages, then using the Fibonacci tool, and now here's a fourth tool, right? So all of these ideas have confluence with each other. If you're using the fixed range, you might be able to get an earlier entry into the trade, right? So here it tells you that this is the most important level to pay attention to. If you go back to the previous Ethereum chart, 272 is at 1239. On this chart, this number is at 1219. So essentially you could have got in a little earlier instead of waiting for the break of $12 or 1239 on this chart, right? If we go back to the moving average chart, you could use the 4-hour 200 MA, and again you could have got in slightly earlier, but basically in the same range, around $1,230. A little rundown on how to use support and resistance, 4 different ways.